Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Consider the following. A targeted individual is a person who has been singled out because of his or her activism, whistleblowing, or political ideological dissent. Gang stalking usually happens when a person that has committed no crimes is defamed in some way. Neighborhood Watch and other untrained opinionated vigilantes are the obvious offenders of gang stalking, including official or unofficial political groups, etc. These tactics used include 1. Illegal surveillance, bugs placed in home, work, vehicle. 2. Illegal wiretapping. 3. Illegal investigation of all personal and private documents, including medical and financial records. 4. Waves of criminal activity including vandalism, poisoning, break-ins, theft, and sexual assault. 5. Hacking of all electronic devices. 6. Harassing phone calls, texts, and emails. 7. Redirects to gang stalkers when the target calls for help or assistance. 8. Organized harassment and stalking by law enforcement, private security firms, and ordinary citizens. 9. Being ostracized by entire communities based on slander and rumors, usually outright lies said about that person.
To the outside observer, street theater means nothing because it is personalized. When you are walking around and people start repeating conversations you have had with other people face to face, on the phone, or even through email word for word, then you know it is street theater. They also will repeat lines from films or TV shows you have watched recently, or talk about actors from those films or TV shows, even phrases from video games or lyrics from songs. If I were to record a video of someone doing street theater that is part of my gang stalking, it would just seem like people having a normal conversation. But when you are the person it is aimed at and they are repeating conversations you have had word for word or other stuff, then you know it is street theater. Harassment techniques include 1. Surveillance, being followed, electronic surveillance, computer and phone hacking, monitoring all online activities, and bugging of home. 2. Profiles are built to identify any and all weaknesses and insecurities to be used later. Information often obtained through sexual partners or trusted people in their lives. 3. Conditioning, where victims are sensitized to certain stimuli, such as everywhere you go, someone will cough as they walk past you. The goal is to make you self-police, and then think anyone who coughs is involved in the harassment. People report conditioning to include hand gestures, an overt use of color in people's clothing, like everyone you see wearing red, or cars a certain color or with headlights on, also known as brighting. 4. Anchoring, where someone will provide false rationales for the harassment. Often, many possible rationales are planted to keep the victim confused, and the focus of the harassment cycles from one possible reason to another, round and around, so as to keep the victim guessing in a self-perpetuating guessing game, where every scenario you are to blame and causes self-doubt, fear, intimidation, and ultimately, a cycle of destructive thoughts. 5. Mobbing, or true gang stalking, where everywhere you go you will see an overt display of people following you and often use words you have been conditioned to or your name to draw your attention. 6. Street theater, where a group will perform an overt activity like a fake confrontation or scenarios designed to test your reactions. Often takes the form of a couple who position themselves near you and then have a conversation using many of your conditioned words or pertaining to your particular situation and sensitivities. 7. The use of directional speakers, which have the ability to direct sound to a single individual in a crowded room. This particular item is ultimately the most used and is often referred to as V2K or voice to skull, and is used extensively in the psychological breakdown of the victim. The use initially is to cause the victim to doubt their sanity and drive them into the mental health system, and later to just torment and never give the victim a moment of privacy or peace. If they do enter the mental health system, then harassment escalates dramatically, as the victim has now been discredited and can be labeled as someone with a mental problem if they do speak out about the harassment. 8. the use of electronics to affect your eyesight and balance, which was originally developed for the military and police crowd control, called dazzling, and even the ability to make you vomit. 9. Sound campaigns, which is a community harassment technique where abnormal levels of sound are directed at the victim and their home. This includes cars deliberately braking or accelerating when they pass, people talking excessively loudly at all hours of the night, amplification of sound using directional speakers so that external sounds that previously couldn't be heard now can, garbage trucks and other heavy vehicles, and countless other deliberate tactics. 10. Sleep deprivation. This is perhaps one of the most insidious tactics used, where victims are woken multiple times a night and can be kept awake for days at a time. The effects are dramatic and completely debilitating, affecting concentration, mood, irritability, appearance, and significantly impacts all areas of their life, job performance, relationships, and significantly aids in discrediting the victim as they appear unorganized, disheveled, and sleeping patterns alter so they may sleep during the day, where noise campaigns are more effective, and be awake at night, where they can be painted as the one making noise and being a disruptive member of the community. 11. Baiting or entrapment, where victims are harassed to the point that they lash out and commit a crime such as assault, break and enter, or vandalism, as they try to locate the source of the harassment. Harassers will actively try to provoke verbal and physical confrontations, especially after a period of sleep deprivation, or they are prompted into an activity which can then be used as leverage, such as affairs, sexuality, drug use, or other criminal activity. 12. Gaslighting, which is a form of psychological abuse, where someone will actively try to undermine victims and to make them doubt themselves so that they lose all self-confidence and self-esteem and are therefore easier to manipulate and push toward the mental health pathway. It can be as simple as being told something which they then deny, then telling them how silly they are for thinking they said it, and turn the lie around into an attack on the person. It can be incredibly effective coming from a trusted person, and before the victim understands what is happening to them. 13. Black bag jobs is a term when a harasser breaks into a victim's property and places something or deliberately moves something. The purpose is to cause self-doubt and fear that their property is being accessed, which harassers try to then sell as paranoia. 14. Propaganda and disinformation is also the other key element to suppress knowledge of this practice, as its effectiveness initially requires the victim to be unaware of the existence of gang stalking, gaslighting, or the electronic technologies such as directional speakers. So huge amounts of time are devoted online to creating disinformation sites which attempt to discredit victims by pushing the mental health agenda. They achieve this by posing as victims and actively trying to sound crazy so that all victims are treated as such. Also by creating websites claiming to help victims and being a resource for victims to come together, and then harassing them to the extent that they lose hope and no longer reach out for help, causing further isolation. 15. Further to the above, gang stalkers rely on disbelief and discrediting, and as such, much of the harassment is designed, at least initially, to mimic mental health issues. They also rely on their abuse being so extreme, so pervasive, so fundamentally immoral, as to be disbelieved, and victims subsequently resort to photographing, videotaping, and sound recording their everyday encounters to disprove the countless unfounded claims made against them, especially in relation to gaslighting, which gang stalkers try to turn around and paint the victims as paranoid or irrational. Victims are made to feel helpless, as every attempt to defend themselves is used against them, and when they seek help, they are met with disbelief or open hostility.
EARS, Effortless Assessment of Risk States. Developments in consumer mobile and wearable computing, for example smartphones and fitness trackers, provide a historically novel opportunity to capture individual digital phenotypes. Jane, Powers, Hawkins, and Brownstein, 2015, Onella and Rausch, 2016, which are continuously indexed, temporally rich individual-level data at multiple levels of analysis, that is, voice tone, text message effective content, geolocation, physical mobility, autonomic activity, sleep, and social networks. Our lab has developed a suite of programs, the Effortless Assessment of Risk States, EARS tool, that integrates these data into a background application on Android and iOS smartphone devices. The Ears tool collects data on language, facial expression, and voice tone along with many other signals as part of the person's normal daily phone use. This data is then encrypted on the phone and pushed to a HIPAA-compliant cloud service for automated analysis of affective states. Based on these developments, in August 2016, our lab was selected to take part in a technology development sprint as part of the Opportunity Project, an Obama White House-sponsored initiative to create new open digital tools to help communities. During this sprint, we worked on integrating our tool with location-based data from open government databases, for example, location of nearest mental health services, that could be used in both assessment and intervention. As a result of this, in October 2016, we were invited to the White House to present the Ears tool.
Hello, fellow Anons and gang stalking victims. I believe that I am being gang stalked and that I have a piece of the story. When I was a kid, I took a toy out of a cereal box. It was a small gray device with wired headphones. The toy, or spy device, allowed the user to listen to conversations through walls. I used it on my own parents and listened to their conversation. Now I had no idea whether or not the conversation actually occurred, but at my young age, I thought I was perceiving reality. I ended up falling asleep with the device on. When I woke up, the device was gone. I asked my parents about it, but they didn't know what I was talking about or denied knowledge of the device. I spent the rest of my teenage years forgetting about the device since it disappeared from my bed. When I got a girlfriend, one of the things she told me was that she could hear the same things I was hearing. We broke up. Today, I know I have schizophrenia. I am undiagnosed and hear voices from when I wake up and when I fall asleep. All the green texted effects listed by the OP I can verify as true from my own subjective experience. I have been unable to combat the voices, and to help cure the schizophrenia, I have dedicated my time to finishing the entire Bible with my own voice in my head. I often think about nothing at all and have silenced my own inner voice because of the constant gang stalking V2K I can hear throughout my day. I suffer from extreme hallucinations if I am off my antipsychotic medication. I have found nothing else to combat the voices except for reading itself. I have even had hallucinations during the day in the middle of my lecture for my university. Recently, I have noticed that I am not the only one hearing voices. Even people who claim to hear nothing, not have schizophrenia, have been affected by the directional speakers. I always think back to the device from the cereal box and wonder if it is the technology being used by the perpetrators. The device was stolen from me, and I suspect the ring of Gyges. If I had the item today, I wouldn't even know what to do with it, as it was a pre-smart device. I know my own conscience, and I know I am hearing voices 24/7. Since then, I have found no way to combat the voices. I have moments where I do get zapped, or it feels like someone is running a blade along the insides of my body, or even along the Adam's apple on my throat. I sincerely hope that gang stalking victims find a way to resist the voices somehow, because I have found absolutely no way to combat it other than constant reading. I hope this post helps someone as I am in this fight with you. I call it schizophrenia, but remaining undiagnosed allows me to understand it as gang stalking. I do not believe it is God. If it is God, then it would be the God of the Old Testament. Amen.
Gang stalking is a literal jail for souls, isn't it? They are your worst fears, your demons. Yes, I am schizophrenic. How could you tell? But why would someone be placed in such a prison?
Nah, it's a network of people, a parallel society who have infiltrated government and institutions. They operate like a cult. They often abuse institutional power in unofficial and unapproved ways. Ever wonder why the slander targets talking about some kind of investigation, but nothing ever comes of it? Because there is no legit legal investigation. They're just using their credentials to hijack government resources to fuck with people they don't like, which is anyone who isn't in their little club. It's meant to scare you, control your perception, bait you into taking illegal action, etc. It's prison psychology in the regular world. Congrats, you're in the biggest outdoor prison that's ever been conceived, and likely for no reason other than these people suck.
I was stalked once years ago, and now I am still monitored. It is the Mafia, Sounds stupid, but the mafia is real. I live in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I once worked for a construction company. I discovered the information about the mafia, and then I was followed in my vehicle many times. They waited for me and followed me in the mornings and evenings. Then they bugged my vehicle. They sent people to look after me when I was on my off days to watch and follow me. They made contact once when I skipped work one day to go to a nature park, and I waited, and he came up being sneaky, and I caught him. Had a convo with him. Many secret agents about. So much to say. Basically, it is the mafia. They're all in cahoots. I speculate that the fraternal organizations, such as the Illuminati and Freemasons, are also simply the same mafia. Also, commerce and insurance are mafia. The American government is the mafia. It is all just the mafia. The mafia is real, and they absolutely stalk. And the more you know then, the more they watch and listen.
You are not gang-stalked. You are electronically harassed. It is an intelligence-based BCI using unknown classified technology, but theorized to be ultrasound or scalar. You cannot block it. It will not tell you the secrets of the universe. Do not engage with it, as it is only filling your head with simulated events others will perceive as delusions. The purpose seems to be a mixed bag of weaponized mental illness sprinkled with behavioral modification. The voices you hear are AI-generated, as are your simulated trauma, fear, and blackmail-based scenarios. This technology initially starts its operation by framing perps in your vicinity. They do this with a multitude of methods, including subliminal thought planting, voice to skull. You will not assume you are hearing voices. You will assume you are hearing the people being framed. If you are really religious or really into something like aliens, they will simulate God instead of something like conspiring neighbors or co-workers. If the initial gang stalking fails at achieving its desired goals, you may be subjected to the real bells and whistles this technology can accomplish. If you are in the early gang stalking stages, you will be subliminally influenced to not believe any of this and to continue reaffirming your delusions. Believing any of this if you are only receiving the subliminal version versus the telepathy-based will be impossible. This will never try to influence you to point the finger at the government. It will do the opposite, as it is essential for these psychological terror campaigns to work. Whatever it is harassing you about, whatever wrong deeds you've committed isn't comparable to the government's, resulting in complete ineffectiveness of these methods. Do not react. Read PIC-related, follow the rules to a science, and you will be fine. These feds luckily have regulations on the use of this stuff. They are not permitted to do things like complete physical incapacitation forcing self-termination. Targeted individual orientation. Welcome to the targeted individual experience. The situation you found yourself in is confusing and extraordinary. Your well-being, reputation, health, and even your life depend on how you deal with this situation. It is imperative that you remember and follow these basic rules. Many targeted individuals before you paid a high price to learn them, but you don't have to. 1. Do not react. If you see or hear anything that compels you to react, do not. Keep a poker face and business as usual unless directly confronted. Feign ignorance. 2. Do not damage control. If you observe a smear campaign against you, do not try to change anyone's opinion no matter how much you're provoked. Your actions will only fuel the situation further. 3. Do not confront. You'll want to accuse and expose perpetrators. They will never admit, and instead you will end up looking crazy. 4. Do not tell. Choose wisely who you share your experience with. Regular people will only see mental illness and will become afraid. Some will want to help and will try to force medical assistance. Same with the police, the best you can get from them is nothing. 5. Do not retaliate. It might be hard to believe now, but a lot of people around you are being set up for you to retaliate against them out of fear, anger, and panic. That includes your friends and family. The real perpetrators will try to use your own hands to take away the people who might have supported you. 6. Control yourself. Learn how to stop panic attacks and regain control over yourself if you lose it. Slow, deep breaths is a good go-to technique. If you ignore these rules, you will be sabotaging yourself, short and long term. Always think of consequences before taking any rash actions. Find a support group of more experienced targeted individuals and ask for guidance. You are not crazy. It will be over. You may think to yourself that this can't be the truth, and unable to believe actual people are not involved. This is mostly due to two factors. The voices will not appear to be coming from inside your head. They will be used in a directional manner. You will perceive to hear them in the direction of your window, above you. They're on the roof. If you are hearing what appears to be people conspiring against you using logic and reason, notice the fact that you will never actually see these people talking about you. It will be through a wall, or while your back is turned to them or theirs to you. When you no longer believe people are physically in your vicinity, this technology will change tactics and convince you there are audio bugs planted in things like your television, walls, or computer, or they are using technology they got off the dark net, something that this tech will have no problem whatsoever convincing you of. The second factor that will cause you to believe people are involved is the noise campaigns. Wall banging, roof stomping, electronics clicking. The roof stomping is indistinguishable from someone actually stomping on your roof, as is the wall banging.
Is it patented? If not, it probably doesn't exist.
As of 2017, there were nearly 7,000 classified patents. There are also 61 classified agreements between nations regarding defense technologies. Hopefully, with this stuff being used on a massive scale by multiple nations, they will not be able to conceal it much longer. It's really unfortunate that this stuff can read your mind. It's the reason it's classified. That facet wouldn't be accepted by the public. This stuff would absolutely revolutionize the medical field with its physiological capabilities. Usually in targeted individual testimonials, you only ever hear about the bad, but this shit can do some absolutely crazy shit. Fatigue control, mood control, pain control, appetite control, addiction control, etc. It would collapse the pharmaceutical industry, as its capabilities are infinitely more effective and cost-effective. Another reason it's not publicly available.
So my gang stalkers are purposely making me bad when they could be using this brain tech to help me.
It's not making you bad. It is breaking you down psychologically and emotionally in order to rebuild you. You likely lack self-control, likely abused hard drugs like meth. The extreme methods they use are necessary to induce change. They will eventually help you, but you have to help yourself first. It will also be on their terms, and not yours. For me, this happened about a year in. They started the get a fucking job phase, and when I did, is when they sprinkled in some help along with the torture. I still hear voices, but they are very low in volume, and they do not activate the forced attention shit this thing can induce. I imagine my program is almost over, as it has lessened and lessened over the past year. I'm conflicted about the whole experience because on one hand it was utterly terrifying, and on the other hand it saved my life.
Hello there. I found a way to detect and record and even triangulate on where remote neural monitoring V2K is coming from. All from the patent online and of course web searches related to it. US 3951134A. United States. Apparatus and method for remotely monitoring and altering brain waves. It operates on the 110 Hz, which one of the ways it can be detected is through an EEG reading. What to be looking for is abnormal bursts reminiscent of an epileptic even though you're clearly not. The only problem with that, though, is the cost of insurance and having to wait and get permission to go through with an EEG reading if you're in the US. If you're able to convince people around you of what's going on with a very level-headed approach and they question what the bursts are coming from, congratulations, you are on the next step to proving your targeting. If you trust the police, they have equipment that can triangulate on where the frequency is coming from. If you don't trust the police, then maybe you can reach Roger Toltzes, who has been an ardent supporter of TIs and has technology that helps shield attacks. And of course, Derek at PAX, People Against Covert Torture and Surveillance. Upon my discovery of this, the people behind the synthetic voices have been terrified and upped the targeting, but it's of no consequence. I already know everything about them now and even have a very strong suspicion of who they are, considering how isolated my community is, as I have also done research on the grants my community has gotten. I hope this helps, and I think I will post this in every gang stalking thread going forward. Remember, you're not liable at all for the thoughts they conditioned you to have, and you are not what they taunt you about. Also, a very important note, since every single targeted individual that gets V2K also has dream manipulation, I found a legitimate study on it called dream incubation. Feel absolutely free to copy and paste this and use it however you want. Spread the word. Make people aware. The more people know, the more people will notice, and the more it will become mainstream. I got targeted in the summer of 2018, and I have been living and thriving all 7.5 years to now without ever having a breakdown or acting erratic or losing my job, friends, family, and home. I haven't been institutionalized and proved to people through my calm demeanor and rational thought and intelligence that I am not an average case of schizophrenia that's also common with targeted individuals. If you can do all this, especially without shielding, then so can you. It'll be hard, and it'll be in your face, and it won't give you rest. You're not stupid, and you know that. But with the grace of God and belief in your strength and capabilities, you can master and exert control back over your mind and still live a normal life, or maybe even a better life that can help other targeted individuals or even just regular people. And one more note before I go, I've never let them have one moment of control since this started. We will persevere and find strength in the struggle, and if you utilize my findings, then maybe we can all finally make what's happening to us mainstream. God bless and Godspeed.
Tourist here. Why do you guys think you are being gang-stalked? Unless you have some public presence with people who listen to you, what would be the point in wasting so many resources on you when you have minimal influence? Is being gang-stalked holding you back from your true potential? Or do they just randomly pick people to fuck with?
There's no additional time and effort, no wasted resources. It's a neural net. You're connected, I'm connected. I just have the loud version activated, the one used to associate someone with mental illness that comes with AI voices and all the other bells and whistles. Most gang-stalked people only get the subliminal version that affects their lines of thinking and softly influences delusions of persecution. They'll think mind control technology is dumb and not real, and then they'll post a picture of roach eggs on Facebook, claiming it's an audio transmitter. The people who know it's mind control tech are generally more calm and rational, whereas people who believe boots on the ground are out to get them are the people you would generally label as schizo. They'll believe any manner of things like their girlfriend was replaced by a doppelganger, their computer science teacher is an undercover CIA, their neighbor is watching them through FLIR cameras. It's the technology that's convincing them of this bullshit. The more delusional bullshit it can convince them to muddy the water concerning the tech, the better. Once you get to the stage where you know feds are reading everyone's mind and have been for untold decades and have begun running trauma-based simulations on the public en masse, the mind control really loses its effectiveness. It can't convince you of bullshit anymore, so it becomes strictly harassing in nature. It won't frame neighbors with voice to skull. It won't plant insane thoughts in your head like your car radio is bugged. It mainly just repeats things like, "You're a fucking loser," over and over before giving you a targeted sting on your cheek. Like how the operators of this tech can sleep at night, I have no idea. Especially when they target some guy and he kills his entire family. Interestingly, if you read most gang-stalking testimonials, you'll find most people aren't pointing the finger at the government, and it's because it's the one thing the tech will actually anti-influence. It's so good at it that you can be at the "I'm telepathically talking to something" phase and still be convinced that your neighbor bought technology off the dark net that can decipher your jaw vibrations and inner monologue. It uses a method of mood and thought control to do this. When you think it's your neighbor with darknet technology, it will make you feel elated, like you've solved the case, that you're powerful and won you 0 gang stalkers. It does this a lot, makes you feel confident that you've solved the case, when all it's doing is reinforcing delusions so you appear mentally handicapped to anyone who will listen. When you point the finger at the government, the opposite happens. You'll have thoughts like, "Hey, I don't know. It seems unlikely mind control tech is real." It'll make you a bit sad or annoyed and start planting thoughts of conspiring neighbors again. You'll have no idea it's planting these thoughts, and you'll think it was your own doing. After you've gone through this shit for years and you look back, it's fascinating to look back and realize how this shit operates and how effective it is at doing so. Even with above average intelligence, this thing had me full-blown losing my fucking mind.
rolling around in bed telepathically playing the whodunit game with it for an entire year. I usually don't engage with other targets because this shit is so easily able to manipulate the mind that it always becomes a pointless endeavor. I've noticed it tends to put people in an aggressive state when confronted with what is likely the truth, and it's interfering with the delusions that have been planted.
Only a Fed shill would spam here to muddy the waters and further the agenda to make targeted individuals look unhinged.
These threads have been glowing bright for months. If you go to a gang-stalking targeted individuals Discord, there is actual discussion there. People disagree, argue, discuss what it may or may not be, but it's nowhere even close to the drivel that is this thread. The drivel here doesn't seem to be organic either. It seems extremely bot AI driven. No human would waste a second of effort posting this shit day in and day out, and you're right, it does seem to have a purpose of muddying the water as well as some type of demoralization tactic to thwart curious visitors. I can't even stomach reading through these threads anymore as an actual targeted individual who knows this technology exists. I can't even imagine what it's like for someone who is clueless. If you look across every platform, there is some form or fashion, a version of censorship that goes with this subject. They can't outright delete these threads or throw them over to /bant/, so this demoralization bot posting seems to be the tactic.
What does it say when you have individuals begging to be targeted for the sake of validation, even if negative?
This is actually a bad place for gang-stalking threads because this shit existing rage baits a lot of people who so desperately want to believe in the paranormal. If it's CIA brain-computer interfaces running trauma-based simulations like conspiring neighbors or telepathic aliens, and it refutes so much of the paranormal. There's no hauntings, there's no demonic possessions, there's no alien abductions or visitors. All of these things were just brain-computer interface simulations used on a target who was naturally disposed to believing such things were possible, and would result in a more grandiose reaction than, say, something like conspiring neighbors. They use a lot of "you're speaking with Allah" in the Middle East, for example, because that segment of the population is more easily manipulated by that type of simulation, whereas the non-religious segments often get delusions of persecution and conspiring neighbors. When you're hit with this technology and you realize what it is, you come to realize how easily this shit can convince someone something like their house is haunted. Forget the voices, the noise campaigns this shit can do are insane. It can simulate banging on the walls, stomping on the roof, footsteps, and unlike the voices, these sounds can be recorded. I imagine it's some type of DARPA tech, but I haven't the slightest clue how it works. These noise campaigns are what convinces most targets that actual agents or people are involved, and it's not all just some brain-computer interface. As for your question, well, they are dumb. This isn't fun-based telepathy, it's an AI with strict parameters that does nothing but insult or psychologically torture you. You do not want any part of it. I should also mention that there are a handful of targeted individuals in these threads that know this shit is real but pretend it isn't in order to bait other targeted individuals. They've experienced all of the bells and whistles that this tech can induce and know exactly what to say to get a rise out of other targeted individuals. When someone is fully convinced their neighbor is conspiring against them and their testimonial is read by someone with years of experience with this shit, the experienced targeted individual can read between the lines and cause additional duress to targets who are still clueless as to what this shit really is.
And what kind of tech does it take to break your windows with a rock in the middle of the night? Because that is what real gang stalking is.
Probably just stupid kids. The tech isn't breaking your window at night, it's causing you to link the coincidence to the tech. It's a very common tactic and is nothing more than a psychological abuse method. Your internet goes out, it's them, your stomach hurts, a gang stalker poisoned your food, your TV remote doesn't work, they're blocking the signal. In actuality, there were just ISP issues. Your stomach hurt because you ate a bad piece of pepperoni and your TV remote needs new batteries. Anything, and I mean everything negative in your life, it will try and get you to attribute to this shit. It will even claim responsibility for the positive things. You have to learn to differentiate between your own thoughts and what it is making you think. It takes years of experiencing this shit before this is even remotely possible.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.